guys, and welcome to Olivia's Catastrophe. Today I'm here to give you my September wrap up, and yes, I'm in my new place in uni, and yes, I've got bookshelves finally. You're going to only see the top shelf and they're quite chaotic, but let's get down to this wrap up because I read 12 books in the month of September and I enjoyed it. So let's talk about the books that I enjoyed. So the first two books that I read were Prodigy and Champion by Mary Lou, which thus concludes the Legend trilogy. I don't want to tell you what these ones are about because spoilers, but the first one is basically about June and Day. June is a prodigy in this dystopian society. She's really smart and dedicated to the government, while Day is a legend. He fights for the poor, kind of Robin Hood style, and he does things in record time that nobody understands how he does them, giving money and resources to the poor. However, when June's brother is killed and it's got Day's name written all over it, she doesn't understand why Day murdered her brother because Day doesn't usually kill anybody in his wondrous things that he does. So June's out for revenge, and somehow June has something that Day needs. What can I say about the end of this series? It's the first series I've read by Mary Lou, and Prodigy, I rated it 5 stars even though I rated Legend 3 stars. This book was just so good. Usually the second book in a dystopian series doesn't get any better, but this one just ramped it up so much. I fell in love with the characters, it was unpredictable, the action was go go go, the romance wasn't too overwhelming at all, it took a back seat. So much was happening, so much doubt of trusting people that how could I not love this book? Then I went on to read Champion and I was just a little bit disappointed. I think I knocked this one back down to 3 stars again, or maybe even 4. It was still good to have a conclusion, and I really did like the conclusion. I thought it was satisfactory, not in the way that I wanted things to go, but that doesn't impact my rating. It was just a nice book. It seemed a bit draggy at some points. It seemed like it had more to do with politics and characters rather than the go 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 plot that I had been experiencing throughout the previous 2 books. So even though I am a character driven reader, I think the plot was what really sold this trilogy, and then seeing it, you know, die down in the action a bit here kind of got me, and I wasn't a huge fan of everything that happened, but I did enjoy reading it. So a 3 stars, a 4 stars, we shall see. Then I moved on to read 2 books for review, and the first one is The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. If you watch my top 17 favourite books of 2017, check up there and down there, you'll know that The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is the first one in the Montagu Siblings series, was one of my top books last year. So when they sent me a review copy of this one as well, I was so enthusiastic and basically ready to read this one. It's got a similar kind of vibe to The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, a character who feels out of place, historical fiction, and they are going to find and make their own destiny. In this one, it's about Felicity, who is Monty's younger sister, and she wants to study medicine and she's going to go out and do it. However, it's in the 1800s, women aren't supposed to study medicine, and somehow pirates end up involved in this huge quest. I loved this book. I rated it 4 stars, so I didn't love it as much as the first one, and that's because Felicity's character kind of grinded on me a little bit in some places, and I wasn't a huge fan of all the choices that these characters made. But at the same time, this just says so much about feminism. There were some really great feminist points in there about women supporting women, but also women not looking down on other women, or not necessarily having to do things the same as men to feel like they've achieved things. They can do things their own way. And I really appreciated the feminism theme. Yay for pirates. I really loved the whole pirates theme going on as well, and I just really loved the adventure in the story. It just kept going, they kept travelling to different places. It's like a road trip on a pirate ship-ish. It's just really cool, and it's a really fun book, a great sequel to the first one. Mackenzie Lee could do no wrong, and please read the author's note because she makes some very valid points about the way we see some people in history. Then I read another review copy, and this was a buddy read with Hannah Reads Too Much on Instagram. I'll leave a link to her Instagram down below. And that book was A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Barnard. Now this one is about a girl who has selective mutism, and I did not know anything about that disorder until I read this book. And she comes into contact and meets a deaf guy in her school named Reese. And with her being selectively mute, she knows some sign language, not as much as he does, and him being deaf, you know, they kind of bond a little bit, and it turns into a romance contemporary story. I really enjoyed this one. I totally had my eyes open to the deaf world. Like, I knew about the deaf world a bit, but I didn't know that much about it, and I didn't know anything about selective mutism. This was the first time I was learning about it, and I think she also has anxiety, so that's kind of brought, panic attacks, I believe, so that's kind of brought into it as well. This book, I rated it 4 stars, but I was debating between a 3 and a 4, because although it's a really woke book and you learn so much about things that you might not know and how to handle things that you don't know how to handle, at the same time the ending wrapped up a little bit too nicely. The characters have such healthy communication that there doesn't really seem to be a plot. Mostly it's about discovering these disorders, overcoming obstacles and stuff like that, but there's no distinct plot running through it. And I'm a character-driven reader, so I don't mind that. But I know that people who want a plot, even if it's a contemporary, just like a small, plot point to push all the way through, you're not gonna get that. This book doesn't do that. But it was still a really good read to me. It was a very nice contemporary, and I enjoyed it. And then I read To Kill a Kingdom by Alexander Christo, because I went to a blogger event this month and we got to meet this author, so this is a nice signed copy. And yes, this one is about, it's a dark Little Mermaid retelling, and in this one the Little Mermaid, Ariel, is actually a siren, and she takes the heart of princes and keeps them. Every year she takes one, and there is this one prince who is fed up with the sirens taking and killing all these princes, so he's on the hunt to hunt down this siren who keeps killing princes while she gets turned into a human, and the only way to turn back is to get something that he has. She can't say who she is, otherwise this prince would kill him, and vice versa. She wants to kill him for his heart, but needs something first to return back to her siren form. Lots of chaos. This is quite a hard one to describe, and I did really enjoy reading it. It was a good read. I loved the crew of the ship, because the prince has a ship like Eric does in The Little Mermaid. I'm talking about the Disney version, but I love the crew. They are so loyal, they are so heartwarming, like a family. This one did at some points get a bit too bizarre for me. Like the ending was a bit like I couldn't visualize what was happening because it was just a bit so crazy. But it's still a good book. It was still a really good read and I enjoyed it. I read it in a single day. That's how much I enjoyed it. For the author's event, I also read Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell, because he was an author who was there too and I wanted to read one of his books before I went there. And this one is a young adult read which is about Kellen, and Kellen lives in a world where there's magic and he wants to be a mage when he grows up. Like the rest of his family, they all have magic. However, he's the only one who doesn't seem to have any magical ability or talent, and is scared that he'll turn into a Shatep, which is a slave. Those are the mages who fail to pass their tests. However, at the same time, this woman suddenly appears, lots of things go down, and Kellen realises that the culture that he's grown up in and the people that he's known might not be as glorious and as wonderful as he's always been told. Again, this is another one that I really enjoyed. The humour in this book is absolutely fantastic. It is so funny and it's really creative. It's such a great fantasy world. At times the secondary characters felt a bit dull and needed a bit more development, I would say. No, they're not dull, but they needed a bit more development to be a bit more 3D like the main characters. I really loved Righteous character, very hard for me to pronounce that. He's a squirrel cat, and the whole ordeal with the squirrel cats was a bit bizarre to me and a bit random, a bit too crazy, kind of like To Kill a Kingdom, but at the same time I also really liked Righteous's character, so how can I argue with it? Again, just a lot of fun, a great start to a series. I cannot wait to read the sequel and see where this is going. Spellslinger was a quick read. I read it in a day. Again, reading in a day, I read The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. This is a poetry collection, and yes, it's minimalist kind of poetry, if you didn't know about this author yet. If you didn't know about this poet yet, I don't know how. And it's got some lovely illustrations to it. I breezed through this one. I actually was reading on the bus and I felt a little bit embarrassed to be turning pages that quickly, but you know, no shame. And it was an okay read. I won't argue with you about whether this is or isn't poetry. We've got enough blog posts and discussions arguing that, but it's not the kind of poetry for me personally, because I felt like it was a lot of tell and not show. She was kind of telling us important life lessons, telling us important themes, and there's no way I can argue and say that those aren't relevant themes that we need to know and not relevant life lessons that we need to learn. But it was just like telling me them rather than showing me them in a poem, and that bothered me a lot. Sometimes I was like, okay, so she's saying things exactly the way, like she worded some things that I feel but didn't have in words, and those are where I marked them because I like them, but otherwise I was a bit like, it's just okay. Then I read and finished Bleak House by Charles Dickens. This one is a book that I read for uni, and it's 989 pages long, so it's an absolute beast. And I started it on the 1st of September, and I did an Instagram poll whether you guys thought I would be able to finish this one by the end of September, and you guys said yes. Like 51 of you guys said yes, and only one person said no, what you doing? So no hate to that person, but because you were all like, yeah, you can do it, I thought like, okay, now great, I've got to actually start and finish this one in a single month. So I aimed for 50 pages a day, and then when I went abroad to Budapest I did keep that up, but I did speed read a lot towards the end of the month, and I finished this on September 28th, and it was a good read-ish. Like the first half of it, so let's say the first 500 pages, dragged really slowly. We were meeting a lot of nice characters. Oh wait, I didn't tell you what this one is about. So it's actually a murder mystery. There's this girl who doesn't know her past, doesn't know her real mother and who she really is, and there's also some murders happening, and there's lots of drama, lots of complex character past that need to be unravelled. That's really it. But the first half was very slow. Like, you got to meet a lot of interesting characters, and that was good for me because I'm a character-driven reader, and I was like, oh, I like all these characters, but nothing much is happening. And then the last 400 pages, stuff goes down. The mystery unravels, you're like, oh, what's happening, what's happening? And it was just really suspenseful, so I raced through the end, but I have to say the beginning is a bit of a drag, and this book is a beast already, so when you have a drag beginning, it's kind of like, will you actually get to the end ever? Moving on, the last 4 books that I have to say are things that I read for uni. So we've got here like Dr. Faustus and Other Plays by Christopher Marlowe. So I read Dr. Faustus, which was actually quite interesting. It's about this guy who is who's really smart. He's a lecturer, professor, and he decides to go with the devil's side of things and dabble in magic and witchcraft and all that. But then the angels are like, no, repent and come back to the good side, and he kind of doesn't do that. So it was a good play. I enjoyed it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, and the ending was a bit anticlimactic, but other than that, it was a good read. And I also had to read Tamburlaine the Great Part 1 from this collection by Christopher Marlowe, and that book was totally boring. Like, it was just about wars, violence and crownings, which are 3 things that could be very good in a play. I mean, let's look at Hamlet, for example, but for this one it was just more of the same, repetition, no character development, no real plot, and I was just bored throughout beginning to end. And then from this big bad boy of William Shakespeare plays, for my Shakespeare module that I talked about last month, I read 2 plays. I read Romeo and Juliet, which is actually really interesting, my relationship with Romeo and Juliet. Whenever I read the actual text, I never enjoy it. I rated it 3 stars. I just think everything happens too fast. If you didn't know, it's about these 2 people who fall in love, and they are from rival families, so their love is forbidden, and they both end up dead in the end. No spoilers, that's said in literally the first paragraph of the play. And it was just like, everything happens too fast, I don't believe it, there's not enough time with any of the characters to really like them, and it was just a bit like, ugh, I can't bother. But whenever I watch the 1968 adaptation, it's one of my favourite movies because you fall for the characters, they do such great things with reading in between the lines of the play, they stick to the original script but kind of add things in the way that they act, and it's just so genius that I love that movie so much, and I love Romeo and Juliet because of that. In fact, my favourite musical is West Side Story, which is kind of a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but when it comes to the actual text of the play, I don't like it so much, even though it's written beautifully. And then the last thing I read was Titus Andronicus by Shakespeare, another play, and this one is kind of about these families that are kind of fighting over the throne, and lots of violent stuff happens. You can tell that I didn't really like it. I don't mind when there's things about fighting for a crown. Again, I loved Hamlet and all that, but you need to have a bit more character development, and you need to have a bit more less violence, less just violence. If you kind of do add the mind game things into it, like Game of Thrones, you have the mind games and the violence, but this was all just violence, 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 and no one stopped to actually think for a second. It was quite frustrating. And then I have to give a rape trigger warning because there's a horrendous rape in this one, and it literally broke my heart to read about it. Like, my heart went out to this character so much. She was so mistreated throughout the whole thing, and just, reading it was kind of painful. It was just painful, and yeah, no enjoyment whatsoever. So, on that light note, let's end my wrap up. Those are the books that I read. So I had some ones that I loved, some ones that I liked, and some ones that I didn't like so much. I have to say though that 3 stars is still a good rating for me. I keep saying 3 stars and people don't know if that's good or bad, but 3 stars is good, so I'll just quickly run through my rating here. 1 star is terrible, awful, drop this book off the planet. 2 stars is that was a really bad book, I don't recommend it. 3 stars was, it was an okay read, it was good, but it could have been better if this and this happened. I thought it was okay, but I think other people will find it very good. 4 stars means it was great, it was an amazing read, but there was something missing to make me fall entirely in love with it, but it's really, really good. And then 5 stars is just like fangirl heaven. Okay, thank you so much for watching this one. Please let me know in the comment section down below what book that you read in September and really loved, and let me know how you feel about 3-star ratings. Is it good for you or is it bad for you? And yes, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!